Well, hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about restaurant etiquette in Lanzarote. Now, most of the things I'm going to talk about are common sense. You probably know them already, but I'll wager there are at least one or two that you've never come across before. So stay tuned to the end and then leave me a comment telling me which ones of these surprised you. Now, the first thing to say in terms of restaurant etiquette is that you shouldn't just grab a table, either walking into a restaurant or onto their terrace. And that's because we don't have the culture here where you choose your table first and then go and order your food. In all bars and restaurants here, you will get table service. And that means that they need to allocate the right table in the right area of the restaurant so that you'll get decent service throughout the meal. So just try and catch a waiter's eye or a waitress's eye and just let them know how many you are, a table for two or a table for four or whatever, and they will seat you at the most appropriate table to make sure you get served. Now, this really kind of ties in with that. The other thing you shouldn't ever do, and again, which is considered rude, is start shifting the furniture around. And, you know, I've seen people do that in local restaurants here in our village of Attire, and a group of six will come up and they'll literally just grab two tables, pull them together, start moving the chairs around and stuff like that. That really isn't the done thing. And again, you should tell the restaurant waiter or waitress that you are a six and they will rearrange the furniture for you and put you in the most appropriate position for your party size. This next one comes under the category of, well, it really should be obvious, but it clearly isn't. And that is, please wear some clothes when you walk into a restaurant. Guys, for sure, you need to be putting a shirt on. And ladies, if you're wearing a bikini and you've just come off the beach, just put a wrap on or a shirt or something just to cover up. It's considered particularly rude to sit in a restaurant pretty much topless, or in the case of guys, completely topless. So please just don't do it. Now, here's one that might surprise a few people, and this concerns handbags. And there's a Canarian stroke Spanish superstition that if you put a handbag on the floor, the money flows out of it and your money will disappear. So what you'll see is that ladies tend to put their handbags on a spare chair, and it's perfectly acceptable at the table. In fact, there are some restaurants, we've been to one recently, that bring a little basket out so that the handbag can go in the basket. So it's still on the floor, but sitting just off it. So don't be surprised, ladies, if someone rushes around and moves your handbag from the floor and puts it onto a chair next to you or into a basket or something like that. The next one we've got is be ready with your drinks order. And what will tend to happen is that once you've been seated at your table, menus will be brought along, and the temptation then is to dive into the menu and start really concentrating and having conversations about what you're going to have. But the first thing the waiter or waitress will do is come over to your table and take your drinks order so that you've got some drinks to enjoy while you're enjoying the menu. And I often see people who aren't prepared for this, they're having that conversation, oh, I don't know what I want and I need to think about it, and you know, the waiter goes away and comes back. It'll just save everyone a load of time if you are always ready with your drink order within a few minutes of sitting down, so that you can just reel them off and the waiter or waitress can bring them to you. Now, another thing you need to do in Spanish restaurants is be reasonably assertive. Waiters and waitresses here tend to have very busy sessions, particularly at lunchtimes and also in the evenings, and they'll be rushing around the place. They have a number of tables to look after, and the culture here isn't that, you know, you'll have someone only looking after 3 or 4 tables who can regularly come up and check in with you and see how things are doing and stuff like that. It's much more about, you know, trying to keep an eye on 3 tables while they're serving 4 others and stuff like that. So you need to be reasonably assertive if you need something, if you need another drink and so on. So, I mean, the obvious way is to put your hand up and try and catch their eye, but you can also just, you know, call out "perdona" as somebody goes by, pardon, or disculpe, and you know, they'll hear that and pick up that you want some service and you'd like another drink or whatever it is you want. If you're a regular visitor to Lanzarote or anywhere else in Spain, you will know that it's perfectly normal to share food here. And in fact, the whole idea of tapas is that there are a number of dishes on the table that everyone can tuck into and share. So quite often when one person orders a dessert, it might come with 2 or 3 spoons so that other people around the table can help themselves. And with tapas, what should happen is that the dish should be put in the centre of the table and you're each given a plate and a knife and fork in order to help yourselves onto your smaller plate from the main tapas dish. Now this last one I know is going to surprise some people, and that is that you have to ask for the bill. There's a really strong culture here in the Canaries that you don't get the bill until you're ready for it. And in other words, until you've asked for it. Let me explain the background to that. There is a great tradition here in Spain called the sobremesa, which literally means under the table. But sobremesa is that period at the end of a lovely big family meal where everyone's sitting around having a coffee, the non-driver's probably having a brandy with it, and everyone just sort of kicks back and relaxes, and they have a really good natter about what's been going on in their lives for the last couple of months and what they've got planned for the coming few months. And it's considered rude in Spanish to interrupt the sobremesa, other than to take an order for more coffees and brandies. So for that reason, you will almost never find that if you just sit and wait at the end of a meal, someone will bring you a bill. They won't. You actually need to ask for it. So again, you know, attract the attention of your waiter or waitress by saying perdón or disculpe and call them over and tell them that you want the bill. Puedes darme la cuenta, por favor. And finally, while we're talking about etiquette in restaurants, let's talk about tipping. The tipping culture here is not, for example, like the one in the United States, where it's absolutely expected that you have to tip, even if the service hasn't been great. So the culture here is that you tip for good service. But a lot of people don't, and there are some nationalities here that don't have a tipping culture, and they therefore will not leave a tip whatever happens during the meal. And in some ways that's fine, because the waiting staff here are paid a reasonable wage. They're not expected to make up their salaries with tips, but they are very welcome. So I would give you as a general rule of thumb, obviously if the service and or the food hasn't been good, then you shouldn't leave a tip. And in that case, I would explain the reason you're not leaving a tip. I would say, you know, I'm sorry, but we had to wait 15 minutes between the first person's first course arriving and the second person's first course arriving, or whatever the answer is. This is the reason we're not leaving you a tip. Typically, people for average service will leave a 5% tip. We will always leave a 10% tip if the service has been good and attentive. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. It's not something that's expected here, but it will be very, very welcomed if you do it. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. Slightly different, slightly off the wall, and a very short video, but I just thought I'd share with you some tips on restaurant etiquette here in Lanzarote. Were any of those surprises to you? If so, let me know in a comment which ones you didn't know about. Were any of them far too obvious? Then let me know, and I'll take them out when I talk about this again at any point in the future. But above all, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Thank you for all your likes, your comments, your shares. We really appreciate it. Back soon. Bye for now.